great participation and great success down the road.
And it starts with the younger age. I mean, they always, see who the varsity coaches are, but those middle school coaches are so vital.
Oh, they absolutely are. This year we started conversations too, especially having a few new varsity athletes in different sports about, how they can end up setting the tone and setting the direction. And, so much of it starts with our junior high. And, that even applies to academics as well. So we know that even for college and career planning down the road, and what students want to do, if we start talking about their sophomore, junior year, it's almost too late. We have to start at that junior high level to start getting them thinking and deciding what they don't like and what they do like. And that, that's the same for academics, sports, or even the fine arts.
You bring up a very good point, because since I'm the sports director as well, I kind of, look at sports. But academics and the fine arts are so critical.
Yeah, they sure are. And, it's really from a district standpoint, we're trying to educate and develop all students. And, when I say that, we have students who have interests in a wide variety of items. And, any school district has limited resources too. So you try to end up spreading as much as your work across the board as you can to really end up making sure that students have the opportunities for exposure in various areas, and with the hopes that they find their true passion and calling in life, or that they find out they really hate something and they're not going to keep going down that rabbit hole, because they had the opportunity to try it out.
You know better than I, but it is amazing that if people participate in various activities, it just makes them a better student.
Yeah, I think there's a couple levels to that, because you are 100% correct. The more participation we get out of students so that they're able to end up participating in things, it does make them more well-rounded. It makes them a better student too. I do think and have seen as well that the more participation students have, the more they feel that they're connected to a community. And the more you feel connected to a community, then the better mental health and happiness that you have around there. So, all of that kind of breeds together so that people don't feel isolated or odd or anything in that regard.
Again, visit with Dr. Matthew DeBaene from Morrison. Now, we talked just briefly before we went on air. You recently made a conference change from the Three Rivers to the Northwest Upstate Illini. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is my first year as the superintendent in Morrison, so everything is new to me here. And in the change, it's from the people I talk about who are experienced with it. I've seen a little bit of people who have been optimistic about it, a few various concerns, but I think in the long run, I think it's going to end up helping. I think it's going to end up helping our sports as long as our numbers and enrollments continue to stay where they're at.
Yeah, I can see grow. Where some people say, well, those old rivals, we've been playing these guys forever.
Exactly, and it's like anything in life. Change can be difficult, but change can also be necessary.
What about you talk about change and consolidation? That is one aspect that really will get people up in arms sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you've had generations of families who have always worn this color. I've always worn this logo, and so did my grandpa. And so I absolutely get that it's a family and community identity. And when looking at the different schools and that I've personally been able to talk with, I've never been part of a district that has had to do any consolidation, but that's a real challenge, and it's a real thing. And you always feel for people when you have to end up going down that route.
Oh yeah. So we got about 4 or 5 minutes left in the program. Let's get to some of your talking points.
Absolutely, yeah. This is always for me. I find this a really interesting time of year for school administration, and a lot of times people don't understand that by the time we hit the spring, a school administrator is operating in the current school year and the next school year. And so I thought it would be good to end up bringing up a few of the things because we're operating so much in the next school year. Yeah, we're talking right now, even though it might be a little chilly outside, we're talking about graduation. We're wrapping up hiring, but we're also getting into a lot of like, what's the summer work that we're going to be doing, and how soon can we start that? What's the schedules for next year for our classes going to look like? What are the schedules even for our sports, or when is band going to end up and choir going to have their concert? But one of our biggest things that we're doing right now and planning for next school year is we started engagement with our stakeholders for new district goals. So last year we started a goal process we called We Are Morrison, and I believe I previously talked about that. And so that was really successful. We hit all of our goals. Actually, at one point we hit one of our goals and we're like, I think we could even do better. So we decided collectively that we're going to take it to the next level. So after talking with the board and some of our stakeholders, how can we refine that process? So right now, we have a survey and an input opportunity for our students to end up taking in grades 6 through 12 of what do they think is the future of Morrison schools. Same thing, a different one was, that's the same questions shot out to our parents and guardians, and our staff is doing that as well. I'm excited to get that information back. Survey closes at the end of today. And then we are on spring break next week, but when we come back, I'm bringing together those people of those same stakeholder groups to end up, here's all the survey data and here's everything that our community is telling us from these different groups. What are our themes and priorities that are coming out of that? And I'm really looking forward to that conversation to end up having the stakeholders look through the stakeholder survey. And then from those themes and priorities in April, I'll be bringing that to our school board to really brainstorm and dig in deep into what our stakeholders are saying. And by May, be able to have our new goals for next school year set. So when people head out to the summer and enjoy their summer, our staff, students, and families will know what our work is going to be like for the next school year.
I think it would be interesting to see how some of the questions align with the three groups. I mean, if they're in step with each other or there are some differences.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's always the interesting part. We could take a lot of quantitative data and know that, like, okay, 8 out of 10, whatever. But sometimes when you end up getting this qualitative data, you get feedback, you get perceptions from people, it starts making the normal look really weird. And I think that's really interesting, and it's interesting conversations to it. And it helps as well, because by having the student portion of it and the adult portion of it as well, the adults could say this is not a priority, but our students, who are the people we're trying to educate, they're saying, well, that is a priority for us. So now we have the conversation of where we need to be and where we need to go. So, I'm excited about it. I do believe firmly that as a school district, we've got to be able to end up taking the voice of our community and propel our community forward. And I think that comes with some real innovative, progressive ideas, but then at the same time, the traditions and the values that we have to be able to be our backbone.
Appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you again on April 17th. Now, before we let you go, I see you've got the Illinois thing going right there.
I do.
And Iowa and Illinois in the South Region Final.
I am so excited about that. My oldest daughter goes to Illinois, and my schedule just cleared for tomorrow to watch the game. So it's great. I thought that Houston was going to be a very difficult team for Illinois. It got a little closer at the end, but they kept the momentum and they kept the pace of the game, and so I'm excited. And I'm happy for Iowa too. I'm going to have a nephew that's going to go there too, so I wish him the best of luck.
All right. Hey, we'll talk to you on the 17th. Enjoy your break.
Thank you.
Coming up will be a check of the weather.